And I wish we all would get to this level of relationship. I mean, what's a closer relationship than than a wife and a husband? And you would say, okay, maybe a father and a son, but we're actually both through this story, which is insane. The whole idea of seeing us as the bride of Christ and then Jesus being the groom has really been interesting over the past couple months. Just look at Isaiah 54. I mean, it can weird some people out, I guess, but if you're pure and you're mature and you actually see it right, it's actually really beautiful. Isaiah 54:5, for your maker is your husband, and the Lord of hosts is his name. And it's that relationship. And I was looking at the first husband and the first wife to see kind of a better understanding of how we relate to Jesus, and then this whole idea of new creation, and seeing that we're no longer of the world. So new creation in Jesus. No longer of the world, but we are of him. But how does that also work with the bride and the groom? Right? Because doesn't that seem kind of contrary? Like the bride cannot come from the groom. They're married. They become one. But this whole idea of coming from Jesus but also being married to Jesus, how does that work? And that actually is revealed through the story of Adam and Eve, which is really cool. Okay, remember, this is Adam's origin. It says, out of the ground the Lord God made every tree grow. Blah, 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 blah. Also out of the ground Adam was made. But what he said? He said, it is not good that man should be alone. I will make him a helper comparable to him. Out of the ground, God brought every beast and bird of the air, and trust me, this is getting somewhere. And then Adam named them. But for Adam, there was not found a helper that was comparable to him. I love this idea. Like Jesus, all things were made through him, and without him nothing was made, and in him all things consist. But yet in this point, with all creation and plants and animals, there was still this loneliness. And I like that phrase. And it said, it is not good that man should be alone. Jesus didn't want to be alone in heaven. And I have some testimonies with this, with just moments with Jesus and seeing his heart and seeing his eyes and seeing how happy he is just to be with other people. And it's incredible. It's like Jesus doesn't want to be lonely. And then look at this. And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall on Adam, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh in its place. Then the rib which the Lord God had taken from man, he made into a woman, and he brought her to the man. And Adam said, this is now bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. So woman was not made out of the dusts of the ground. You know? Adam was. Adam was made out of the dust of the ground. So okay, think about this. We are man. We're in the world. We're of the world. But when we're created, when we receive Jesus and we're a new creation, it's like we're no longer belonging to that actually, because we are now coming from Jesus. The same way that Eve came out of Adam and did not have a connection to the world, we are made out of our groom, Jesus, from his body. And we are now connected to him. Isn't that crazy? And this is now flesh, now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. We are now bone of Jesus' bone and flesh of Jesus' flesh. So out of the ground came a person. Just like out of Jesus came the earth. All things were created through him. But including us, and then to see that deeper revelation where we're actually part of his body. We're actually part of his body. I mean, why do you think Jesus, when they're doing communion and he broke the bread, he said, "This is my body, this is my blood"? We're actually taking part of him in the same way that Eve took part in Adam. And it's not, and Eve came out of Adam, and yet she was still married to him. Just in the same way we came out of Jesus, and yet we are still his bride. Why does all of this matter? Okay. Because this is where we belong. This is our identity. This is him. You are more, as a Christian, I am more of Jesus than I am a Sprecher. As a Christian, I am more of his bone and his flesh than I am of my parents. Why is that important? Because if my parents struggled with a certain sickness, that means I don't have to struggle with it because I am from the blood of the Lamb. If there's a generational curse of poverty over my family line, I don't have to be a part of that because this is me now. The promises of Jesus, the lineage of Jesus is my blessing, and I don't have to receive the curses that came before me. Like, my identity is now secure. My inheritance, if we are really flesh of Jesus' flesh and bone of Jesus' bone and have literally come from him, then we actually have the Father's inheritance, just like Jesus does. Why did you think Jesus said, "Ask and you shall receive"? Oh, I'm just blown away. Did you not know that your maker is your husband? There's a commitment, and there's an intimacy, and there's a commitment that we can experience with God, and I wish we all would get to this level of relationship. I mean, what's a closer relationship than a wife and a husband? And you would say, okay, maybe a father and a son, but we're actually both through this story, which is insane. We are created through God, and we are married to God. I know it sounds weird, but it's actually a really beautiful thing if you think about it.